Namuzangpo and a very warm welcome to yet another edition of Bhutan This Week with me, Pemal Hadan. Our top stories. The Prime Minister Sringtobge said it is only an idea of replacing petroleum-fired cars with the battery-run ones in the country. The Economic Affairs Minister Nurbawanshu says the question to ask today is not whether Bhutan should join the WTO, but when Bhutan will join the WTO. And ACC appeals for restitution of the buildings of 4 individuals in connection with the Gelpushing land allotment case. Bhutan running on electric car is only an idea that the government is considering and working on it. This was revealed by the Prime Minister during the Meet the Press last Friday. Linchen Sringtobge said there is a misunderstanding on the electric vehicle going by what has been reported by the media. Linchen said so far no project has been approved by the government on this. However, Linchen said that the government has asked for some test models to test certain cars and are hopeful that people will be convinced.
A part of that idea is also, yes, if we can replace all our taxis, because the taxis consume the most amount of petrol. They are flying, they are being driven throughout the day. So if there is the possibility of replacing taxis with electric vehicles, the government would like to support that. But the whole thing about electric vehicles is we are not compelling anyone to drive. We are not forcing anyone to drive electric vehicles. We think it's a good idea and the government would like to encourage it. But it is an idea. It's still an idea. And the idea is evolving. And the idea may be such that we don't need a formal project also.
Whether Bhutan should join the World Trade Organization or not has been a raging debate for years now. The Minister for Economic Affairs, Nurbawanshu, says the question now is when will Bhutan join WTO. He attended the 9th WTO Ministerial Conference in Bali, Indonesia as an observer recently. Limpo said he learned from member countries that WTO has been benefited them and he believes that it would also benefit Bhutan.
The question to us today is not whether Bhutan will join WTO or not, but the relevant question to me seems to be when should Bhutan join WTO. As long as WTO exists, as long as WTO still continues to be relevant to the global multilateral trading sector, I think the doors of WTO will always be open for Bhutan. If Bhutan does not decide to join today, maybe in 5 years' time, maybe 10 years' time, is the future leaders and the future generations will make the shot, call the shot. Bhutan had been trying to accede to WTO now, in my mind, for 15 years. For 15 years, we have been talking about whether Bhutan should join WTO or not. A lot of capacity, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills on WTO had already been developed. And now I think we have the knowledge base to make that kind of a decision to join WTO or not.
Limpo Nurbawanshu says the decision to join the WTO will be a collective one. The Ministry of Economic Affairs will soon organize a series of stakeholder meetings and discussions.
There seems to be a lot of information asymmetry with regard to WTO. There are some sections of the society who are well aware of WTO, but there are a majority who does not know much about WTO. So the consultations would again has to be preceded by awareness of WTO as well. So all of these would be looked into and then a good program of consultation process would be built in.
Bhutan was granted the WTO observer status in 1998 and the application for the membership was submitted in 1999. WTO currently consists of 160 members. The Gelpushing plot allotment case sees 2 more committee members incriminated. 4 cases were also registered recently after the Anti-Corruption Commission discovered 4 individuals had bought plots and constructed buildings on the land. ACC is appealing for both plots and buildings to be restituted and for labor charges and the cost of the buildings to be refunded, keeping with the 1984 Royal Kasho. All restitution cases are at the Mongol court and few individuals are yet to report to the court. Meanwhile, some individuals have agreed to give up the plot and some have been submitting their rebuttals. The date for the verdict is still not known. Tashigang District Court sentenced a 34-year-old man to 9 years in prison for possessing contraband substance. The convict from Dawaka in Paro was apprehended in October. He was found carrying contraband substance worth over 30,000 nultrim. The district court also passed a verdict on 10 people involved in mistakenly shooting a man on his stomach with a poisoned arrow while hunting in October. The main accused has been given 6 months imprisonment, but he can pay 18,000 nultrim in lieu of imprisonment. The other 9 people involved in the case were given 3 months imprisonment each. They can also pay 9,000 nultrim each in lieu of imprisonment. Emphasizing on more stringent law for drug peddlers and stronger support for drug users, anti-drug signature petition drive was organized in the capital last Sunday. Her Royal Highness Aji Kezangwangmo graced the event and signed the petition.
Her Royal Highness Ajikesang Wangmo Wangchuk signed the petition to have more stringent laws for the drug peddlers and strong support for the drug users in the country. She also donated 100,000 niltrim to Chithin Pindi Association, a civil society organization to provide assistance for the drug and alcohol dependents in the country. The president of Bhutan Chamber of Commerce and Industry pointed out that in Bhutan, penalties for drug peddlers are very lenient. He said having a strict law for drug peddlers will help to address drug abuse problems in the country.
In our country, there is no proper law for drug peddlers. Most of them get to serve the prison term of only 3 to 4 years. After the prison term is over, the peddlers again continue illegal selling drugs. They are not scared of the penalties as it is just to serve the jail term of few years. This is not okay.
Thousands of people from 6 Songkhak signed the petition. On most occasions, drug peddlers caught by the police are found to have smuggled in drugs from bordering towns like Tashigang in India. Kampal for Pemal Hadin, Sonam Lhamo for BBS News.
The Tobacco Control Act 2012 was enacted by the Parliament to ban the sale of tobacco products in the country. Ironically, the act led to the increase of black market in tobacco products in the country. Realizing that the act didn't serve its purpose, the National Council will deliberate on the amendment of the act in the upcoming Parliament session. The chairperson of the Legislative Committee of the National Council explained that he is not in the position to share on what will be discussed about the act.
To our mind, the law did not exactly serve the purpose of curtailing the sale of tobacco, the consumption of tobacco. So therefore, I think I'll not be in a position to give you the nitty-gritties and the very specifics of what needs to be done in the act. We are in the process of consulting the stakeholders. We are in the process of discussing and deliberating among ourselves. So these are some of the things that we would like to address. The penalty, is it too harsh for such a tiny crime? Or is it too less or lenient? So the laxity of the penalty also is questioned.
Other than tobacco, alcohol has been one of the main causes of deaths and other social problems in the country. The National Council, however, felt more than having an act on alcohol, awareness and counselling were suitable to address the problem.
During the first Parliament, National Council did discuss the importance of a law on alcohol. And the wisdom of the Council then was that we cannot address every issue with a piece of legislation. There are so many other ways and means of doing things. We could have awareness, counseling, education on the harms and ill effects of alcohol, and we could have so many other avenues whereby we could curtail the consumption of alcohol.
In the upcoming session of the Parliament, which begins from 22nd of January, the National Council will deliberate on amendment of National Council Act 2008, Office of Attorney General Act 2006, and Narcotics, Drugs, Psychotropic Substances and Substance Abuse Act 2005 will also be tabled for discussion. The Parliament is tentatively scheduled to end on 18th of February. Pemal Harden for BBS News. The Finseling Tromde is to have a new high school under the current 5-year plan. Some Tromde school principals, however, feel that the need for the primary school is greater than a high school.
The issue was raised at the recent Tromde School Principals Conference. Some principals shared that there is the need for primary school due to the increasing number of school-going children in that group in Finseling.
Many corporations are coming up. Private organizations are also coming up, and then at the same time we have a lot of armed force and police personnel living here in Finseling, and because of that the population is increasing like anything. So that's why there's maximum pressure in the primary sections. Like we have, according to the figures, I think we have more children in the primary sections. That's why I think there's a requirement for a primary school rather than a higher secondary school.
One of the principals shared that with primary classes clubbed with higher classes, wholesome education including the development of leadership qualities is compromised. The principal said it is the senior students in the schools who are given such responsibilities and not the younger lot. Another principal pointed out that if possible, Finseling needs both primary and high schools.
Whether we establish higher secondary school or primary school, this will benefit and help reduce the pressure in Finseling. Instance, if we establish a bigger high school, then when we admit all the higher secondary students to that new higher secondary school, supposedly, we would be creating enough space for smaller children in the existing schools. So thereby, we would be either way easing the pressure that is there in Finseling.
The Tromde education officer said they had initially proposed both primary and high schools, but due to budget constraint, priority was accorded to a high school.
If you are having a primary school, we cannot have the senior levels. Whereas if you are having a higher school, we can observe the junior also. So that higher secondary school will be PP to 12, not only class 9 to 12. That will be PP to 12.
The Tromde education officer also said that the proposal for a new primary school will be discussed during the midterm review of the current 5-year plan. There are more than 4,100 students studying in 4 government schools and about 600 students in 2 private schools in Finseling. Kampal for Sonam Mongdi, Sonam Lhamo for BBS News.
Unlike in the past, the pre-primary to class 9 students of schools in Punakha now sits for common examinations. Dzongkhag education officials and the teachers are all praises for the initiative.
Initially, the common examination was held only for pre-primary to class 5 students, which was a success. So from this year, class 6 to 9 students too sat for common examination.
The primary objective is to improve the quality of education. When it's common examinations, both teachers and students tend to work harder.
The principal of Kurutang Middle Secondary School said holding common examination provides level playing fields to the students.
Firstly, it gives a level play field for all the children, and then there we can actually check the quality of our students. And some schools who could not do well, that would give them a pinch, and then those teachers working in those schools can work harder to improve the quality of education in their own schools. And secondly, as informed, it really reduces lots of expenditure to carry out this kind of examinations. If these examinations are carried out as home examinations, I'm sure the expenditure will be quite drastic.
She added that the introduction of common examination for pre-primary to class 9 has proved advantageous for the teachers as well.
It also reduces lots of burden for the teachers, because teachers during examination time, they need time to firstly prepare for the question, then moderation, making blueprints, model answers, so on and so forth. So if there is a group who could make the question, moderate the question, and do everything, then that would also give instructional time for the rest of the teachers.
The decision to hold common examination was made at the Punakha Dzongkhag Principals Conference. Compiled for Chunitema Sonamhlamo for PBS News.
A total of 13 primary schools in Tashigang will be downgraded to extended classrooms in the 11th five-year plan. The issue was discussed in the 4th Dzongkhag Sogdu recently.
Beginning next year, Tongling Primary School under Radigyok, Jangshiri Primary School under Bidungyok, Yubinang Primary School under Shongpugyok, and Rangshikar Primary School under Samkargyok will be downgraded to extended classroom. This is because there is less number of students enrolled in these schools.
This year at Jangshiri School, there is no enrollment in PP, and in grade 1 there are only 4 students. In grade 2 there are 5 students, and in grade 3 4 students. In grade 4 there are just 7 students. In total there are just 20 students. In our projection for next year there will be 10 students, and in 2015 there will be 9 students. We have reached the point where we might have to close the school itself.
For a school to be a full-fledged primary school, they need at least 100 students, whereas some schools have only 10 to 20 students. Meanwhile, the girls of Shongfu and Radi shared their concerns.
Students of lower part of Shongpu needs to walk for 2 hours to Chaling Primary School. If the students are enrolled in Tongling Primary School, they just have to walk for 15 minutes. We have discussed this issue with our people, but they do not agree since they work so hard in constructing the school.
Today, Tashigang Dzongkhag has 41 primary schools, 5 middle secondary schools, 10 lower secondary schools, and 4 higher secondary schools, excluding Sherapsi College and Khaling Minseling School. Compiled for JJ Karmatsring, BVS News.
One of the main topics of discussion at the Dzongkhag Sogdu in Ha was the need to promote tourism in the Dzongkhag. The members said there is nothing at the moment which would attract tourists in the Dzongkhag.
Members suggested many proposals and ideas that would help improve tourism in the Dzongkhag.
One of the main reasons for very few Indian tourists visiting Ha is the need to obtain a special permit from Thimphu, which takes a day for them. So we are requesting to do away with that requirement and allow visits to Ha using the permits that tourists get while entering Phuntsholing.
A very good way to promote tourism in the Dzongkhag will be the biking route around Meri Phuntsum. I also proposed this in the 11th five-year plan, and even a survey was done at the site. This will boost the tourism in Bhutan.
To attract tourists here, we need to have something different that is not there in other places. And what we currently have are the fish. What we can do is promote fishing sports like angling and sport fishing.
The Dzongkhag planning officer Lobjang Doji said all the ideas are already in the plan. He however said because of budget constraints, it was not possible to complete all projects as expected.
Everyone feels their ideas and proposals are important, but no one thinks of the fund to carry out the works. There are a lot of things to be done and we are doing them, but we only get a certain amount as budget from the government and we have to work accordingly.
Meanwhile, the meeting decided that a separate meeting would be arranged for all relevant officials and individuals to further discuss on the matter. Compiled for Ishi Gelson, Sonam Rinchen for BBS News.
Bhutan Dzongkhag has not been able to see the full implementation of the waste prevention and management regulation. The main obstacle has been the lack of garbage trucks in the Dzongkhag. The trucks will arrive only next year.
Residents in Bhutan understand the need for proper waste management.
There are many important religious sites in the Dzongkhag, and secondly, Bhutan is one of the important tourist destinations, and thirdly, the Chamkhatom is located right at the center of the East-West National Highway. So therefore, as part of our continued effort, the recent DT Dzongkhag Sodi resolved that we should immediately implement the Waste Prevention and Management Act, of course in consultation with all the stakeholders.
But the immediate implementation met with a challenge. Except for the Tomde, Bhutan's 4 geoks do not have proper waste disposal sites and also no garbage collectors. Bhutan currently has 1 garbage tractor. As a temporary measure, the Dzongkhag brought in a DCM truck this week. The Tomde Thumi says that even with the additional garbage truck, it has been difficult collecting garbage.
We may not be able to collect garbage from the geoks as frequently as we do from town areas, but we are thinking of sending garbage trucks to geoks to collect the garbage from the geok waste dumping area as and when the garbage trucks are free.
Bhutan has been promised a garbage truck and a new cesspool truck under a grant from the Japan International Cooperation Agency JICA early next year. The Dzongkhag hopes to successfully implement the waste prevention and management regulation then. For Komal Karka, Namgizam for PBS News.
That's all we have for you this week. Until next time, this is Pemal Hardin saying goodbye.